Hi, my name is Lindsay Pasho. I work for Cornell Cooperative Extension as an agricultural business development marketing specialist. And we're putting this webinar, a series, part of the Cornell Cooperative Extension Agritourism Working Group, and also through a Beginning Farmer and Rancher grant. So today's topic is going to be implementing outdoor recreation on the farm. We're going to be talking about kind of like adding true outdoor recreation into your farm, your farming agritourism experiences. And then this might be hiking, kayaking, biking, fishing, mountain biking, rock climbing. We're also going to talk about liability insurance. And then we're also going to hear from stories from the farms. So we're going to be hearing from Daisy Meadow Farms and their partnership with Champlain Area Trails and also Into the Woods. So when we think about outdoor recreation, in regards to agritourism, we think of agritourism, what our core agritourism, like kind of our values are. That's like our U-Picks, our educational tours on the farm, being able to sell those agricultural activities. But we think about the idea of how can we keep people onto our farm longer? And that might be through outdoor recreational activities. As you can see, like these are, stocked photos that I got from the internet of people hiking through mountainsides, kids riding on bikes through trails, kayaking on a pond, and then also rock climbing when it comes down to it. And thinking about like what you have for a piece of property and what you might be able to offer. You might have an agritourism operation that's only on an acre, so you won't really be able to sustain something as massive as doing outdoor recreation, but maybe you have a 100-acre piece of property. What else could you be able to offer the public? So I was thinking about different models to look at when it comes down to this. So you might have an agritourism operation that can offer outdoor recreation, and this might be through guided instruction. So somebody who has the actual experience of guiding individuals. So I have an outdoor recreation degree in expeditionary studies. So I went through a training, like formal training courses. So I have certifications in kayaking and avalanche safety. So that would give me that certification to be able to offer and instruct people to do these certain activities. So you might have a piece of property that you're able to offer those type of experiences. But you also might not have that capacity to be able to offer something like that. So you might have a piece of property where people could go on self-guided tours. They can go hiking on their own, biking. You might have like a pond or rivers to be able to go kayaking. That's a different model that's out there. You might be, because we have people from all over the world that are attending these agritourism series that we have. So you might live in an area where there's partnerships of land conservation or trails organizations. So we are going to hear from the Champlain Area Trails about that. I'm also going to give an example. Years ago, I was in England for summertime, and I wanted to do something different other than what I was there for the summertime. So I took a couple days away and went hiking on the coastline. And on that coastline, the land access is different in the UK than in different parts of the world, like in the United States. It's very public access. So I was walking on farm property through trails that had sheep and cows and just opening the fence, closing the fence behind. So you might be living in an area where there's that access to go hiking on different trails that are available. You might have an agritourism operation that you can incorporate your farm animals, that hiking, and we're going to hear from Into the Meadows from Phaedra about how she incorporates her goats into hiking and snowshoeing with clientele. So those are kind of the ideas of on-farm activities that you could potentially do, and we'll hear a little bit more from our farmers' experiences. But other activities is like, I have a farm here in the Adirondacks, and my property isn't big enough to really host those true outdoor activities on the farm. But I'm only 5 minutes away from Poca Moonshine, which has a great area for hiking, for rock climbing. So one of the marketing things that I could be doing on my farm would be to incorporate like, hey, come to the Adirondacks, stay at one of the local bed and breakfasts in the area, and then come visit the farm, and then also, experience Poca Moonshine, a 5-minute hike from here, or any of the other mountains that are in the area. So there's a lot of different ways to incorporate outdoor recreation into your farm when it gets down to it. Another model that I like people to possibly look at is look at Farm Stay USA. This is a place where people can go look at to go stay on a farm for a short or extended period of time anywhere in the United States. And on their website, they have a great filter on it so that you can, if you want to go hiking, you want to go mountain biking, you want to go horseback riding. So there's a lot of different activities that you can see from different models from other farms within the United States of things to do for outdoor recreation. The one thing I always like to bring up when we talk about agritourism is insurance and liabilities, is especially if we're going to start thinking about including outdoor activities on the farm, is making sure that you have coverage for people to go hiking, to go biking, horseback riding. So making sure that you have that included in your policy. Make sure you have any clear signage that you might need. Put in consideration what type of business structure you have, if it's sole proprietorship, if it's an LLC, and then just making sure that you have like accident reporting forms just in case somebody does get hurt. And then just to also mention is in New York State, we have a Safety and Agricultural Tourism Act, so that if you're thinking about hosting people on your farm, there is signage, there is legislation to help protect you, but I always want to revert back to is making sure that you have proper insurance when it gets down to it. So I'm going to turn this over to Tori from Champlain Area Trails to talk about her association.
Hi, I am Tori. I am the Community Engagement and Outreach Manager over at Champlain Area Trails. And I'm just going to give a brief overview of who we are as an organization and then introduce our partnership with Daisy Meadow. So we are a land trust and a trails organization that was established in 2009. And it's based in the Champlain Valley in the New York side. And the Champlain Valley was the last piece added to the Adirondack Park. So whereas the rest of the park has a lot more state land that has been preserved over a long time, the Champlain Valley has been mainly private land, which really limited outdoor recreation access and people being able to get onto trails. So since we started in 2009, we now have over 100 miles of trails. We have over 40 different trails that we manage. And our mission is to save land, make trails, connect people to nature, and promote economic vitality in New York State's Champlain Valley. In order to accomplish these goals, we work with private landowners. And a lot of that is farmland in our area. And so frequently farmers aren't using every single aspect of their farm. And so we've been able to create these trail agreements using pieces of them in order to connect people to the nature and open up these trails. As a result, we're pretty dynamic as far as a trails organization and a land trust. And the trails aren't always something that are accessible in the same exact way year round. One example is that frequently we have several trails that are closed for hunting season. And that is something that the property owners want. And so that's about 3 months that those trails are closed, but overall that means 9 months we have trails that otherwise weren't accessible. And as a community engagement and outreach manager, I focus on the side that is connecting people to nature and the economic vitality piece through promoting these partners that we work with. 2 big examples are the Adirondack Harvest Festival, in which we work with them and partner, and then we do a hike before the festival. And this year we actually did it at Daisy Meadow, and it was fantastic. And we got a shuttle and we brought people over, and they did an amazing job. And we can go to the next slide here. And that is some people on the trail there, in which they were able to go out and do different loops of this trail system as kind of a choose your own adventure. And they put together a type of scavenger hunt and educational opportunities. And it was super fantastic. We had kids on the trails and older people, and people came from over an hour away for this hike. And so it was great promotion for the farm. And then for us, it was amazing to be able to have people be, it was around 2.5 miles away from where the Adirondack Harvest Festival is later. So it's really getting people into the area and showing them what the land has to offer right there. And then our biggest event of the year is the Grand Hike. And part of our origin story, it's funny you were talking about the UK and the differences there, is we were founded with the idea also of creating this town-to-town trail system, much like the UK, because the Champlain Valley has terrain more similar over there. And this project, this tourism partnership between Canada and the UK and the US, when they gave ideas and visited different regions, that was the suggestion for the Champlain Valley, is you have these little hamlets. Why don't you connect trails so people can walk from town to town and, like in the UK, grab a pint from one area and then walk home to the other one. So we've really worked on that in not too long a time, starting in 2009. And so once a year, we have this Grand Hike as our biggest event. This year, we had close to 400 people come. And they started in Essex, New York, and they walked 14 miles to Westport, New York. And a lot of that trail that we manage was all these different trail pieces coming together, and a lot of it's on farmland. And so that was a really critical piece to make that happen. So you're not just walking on a main road the whole time, and you're getting such a variety of landscape. And then it ends in a block party celebrating what everyone's done. It's not a trail race. It's not some big speed focused objective. It's something that lasts all day with people filtering in at different times as we ring a gong and celebrate just the community of walking together, more like hill walkers, like they say out in Scotland. And so this year, we also had Daisy Meadow, as they have in the past, be one of our oases food organizers. And our oases are like aid stations, and we have 4 along the trail. So right as you're kind of tapping out, we have food and water. And so Daisy Meadow made amazing food for our last oasis, and I got a lot of great feedback from that one. And so that's one of the ways in which we're able to promote farms and also have access to them. And we did a lot of stewardship days leading up to that. So with our partnership with Daisy Meadow Farm in particular, we've been partners for many years. Cynthia is currently on our board of directors. They do an amazing piece for us, as one of the many things that they do is they house interns in the summer. And in the Adirondacks, it is quite remote. It's very easy to end up living an hour away from where you work. But for interns, that's not really an option. Many of them are not even graduated from college and don't have vehicles, and they wouldn't be able to come work. And so having this housing base in the summer means that we were able to have 3 interns helping on our trails, managing this land, working with our trail owners. And that was a huge piece that we're able to offer. And then in return, we also organize stewardship days, about 5 a month. And several of them are then on our farms and working with the landowners, and we can get volunteers over. And if a bridge is washed out, we can get a crew to come help. And then we also promote and organize events and just do a lot of partnership pieces to be able to accomplish this multi-piece mission. So then I'll pass it over to Dave.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to, give some perspective on what we do at Daisy Meadow Farm. To first of all say, when people call us farmers, that we always respond by saying, we own a farm and we're not farmers. We grew up on family farms and we know the difference. It's never been our primary source of income. That being said, however, we do operate it as a farm. We do operate under good, sound business practices, and we do require and make sure that it makes a profit. Secondly, in terms of recreation specifically, from the moment we bought an empty hay field in 2002, we knew that we wanted to allow as much access to our land as we could, because we don't consider ourselves owners. We consider ourselves stewards of the land. We may get 30 good years here and then something else is going to happen. So to not have access was never in our mind, but how to do that was something that we needed to sort out. And I had been working on some trails, rudimentary and things, and then the opportunity to coordinate with Champlain Area Trails came to mind. And we've been doing that for a long time. What are some of the things as a landowner that you might struggle with? Expertise, assistance with labor, some reassurance that you will have minimum liability, publicity, those kind of things. Living in the Adirondack Mountains, we're lucky in the sense that it is a well-known and heavily trafficked tourism area. So we have a lot of those things taken care of in advance. But then once we get someone here, we have to be able to produce. So that's the context. Here's the business model we use. When we bought the land, we said it's been 20 years of creative mission creep. We had no plan. We had too much land, so we decided that we needed to have animals. And I use this business model from the agritourism perspective, and then I'll tie it back to recreation. First of all, when we started selling a pound of our organic ground beef, we could sell it for the prevailing wage, price, let's say $8 a pound. Over the time, from an agritourism perspective, we now have a licensed restaurant on our farm and catering business. And by being able to use that, we can take that same pound of hamburger, and if we make it into 3 hamburgers at $15 a piece in a meal, we're now at $45 for that pound of hamburger. Now, if we can add to that someone come to stay here for $120 a night, then consume that pound of hamburger, at the same time, we now have a viable business. And for many of you seeking agritourism activities, that can be part of what you're also trying to do. We all know it's tough to make a living just selling farm products directly, and agritourism can certainly help to that. In terms of recreation, we started off with trails, and now we have approximately 3.5 miles of marked and accessible trails. That was certainly the beginning. And when we started, we had specifically 2 forms of recreation that we were going to do. Walking. No one here will need to be convinced about the value of just going for a walk in the woods. And we wanted that to happen, and that's easier and organic. We have multiple habitats that people can visit, and we were really caught off guard with how many people access our trails. Secondly, we decided to work with the local snowmobile group because they already had a trail going across our property. And what they were able to provide us, as the same way Champlain Area Trails did, was some hard work. They built a significant bridge across our property, without which we wouldn't even be able to use our property well. But also, in addition to that, in this area, as often is the case, those 2 entities, walkers and snowmobilers, can be at odds. And we wanted to do something to break through that. That being said, each of you will have some unique recreational opportunities either in your area or on your farm. That was all we anticipated. And then, as Tori and I have discussed at times, the difference between a tourist and someone recreating is recreators come here with their own abilities, skills, equipment, and are just looking for opportunities. And so here's something that we never anticipated from a recreation perspective. Birders arrived, and they are motivated and have discretionary income, and we had no experience and never anticipated it. We're cruising the internet one day, and we find out that Daisy Meadow Farm has an entire website devoted to birders who can identify the number of species that have been found on our farm. And so this whole new thing opened up that we have been able to enjoy and take advantage of without any effort on our part. But that also, I want to transition a bit, and I could have the next slide, please. And to the fact that at this point, we don't consider ourselves an agritourism business as much as we do an accessibility place. We just create the background for people to be able to enjoy our area. And this is, and in relation to the birding people, sorry, I should get back to that. We created access for people to recreate. Birders found their way here. One young birder who found her way here decided to do her research project and stay with us in our lodging business. We have lodging, a restaurant, and some other things. And then afterwards got a job with the Audubon Society and is now bringing resources to bear to help our farm deal with improving and enhancing our assets, all simply because we opened a trail with Champlain Area Trails for some people to come and visit. This is just an example of another activity at the farm. We didn't seek this out. These people sought us out. They just came and we had a day where people recreated and did painting. Next slide, please. And then another thing that's happened as a result of creating access to our farm, beginning with the idea of stewardship and recreation, is that people find their way to you. We just operate on faith that if people start to see your farm as a place where they're welcome with or without you, that good things will follow, and some of those will certainly enhance your business. This group found our way here as a result of our recreational opportunities. It's a service fraternity from SUNY Binghamton. And every single year they come back and contribute a couple hundred hours of work on our farm, helping us advance our farm. We specifically use them for recreation to extend our trails and repairs and things like that. But when we have, and let's see the next slide, please. This is our restaurant where I'm sitting now as we speak. A whole group of people that didn't know each other a few days before. They come here to both stay on a farm, but also to go for a walk, to visit the Adirondacks. Most of our guests are coming here to enjoy the Adirondacks. And this is, for us, one of our favorite pictures ever, because these people didn't know each other a few hours earlier. And one of the wonderful things about creating access to your property, to your business, to whatever you create sometimes, is you get to just step back and simply let things happen. And that works for you from a business perspective too. And I'm going to speak to some of that. Next slide. And the next thing I want to say in terms of recreation and in terms of agritourism in general is that the value to you certainly should be making your business financially more viable. At the same time, there are other ways that it can help you, and by creating certain assistance. The woman in this picture's name is Mary Godnick. She started out as an Airbnb guest, ended up getting a job in the area after she stayed with us for a few months, got a job in the area, and as we've tried to downsize our daily responsibilities a bit, she now has her own farm business based on our farm. And this is a group of third graders who came recently. They walked on the Cats Trail as part of the recreation. Their teachers wanted them to get out and moving. We did a little bit of environmental studies things. And then they met with Mary in the garden to do this activity. Now, what does that mean for us in terms of value as a landowner, as a business operator, as people who do still have to think about the bottom line is, first of all, do the right thing, do it in a way that makes sense to you and is true and authentic for you. But by the same token, we constantly get people saying, oh, my child was at your farm, and they show up and they do this. And the kind of publicity this can generate, if you only think of it in that terms, is incalculable. Obviously, in this case, it's a little bit more. So there are other things that opening your property and making it accessible will bring to you that I think in the long run work on many levels. And so let's get down quickly to some of the challenges. I'll just say, first of all, for us, this is who we are. We like having people here. We like it. We have the luxury of being able to do that. For someone for whom it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, it brings a lot of what we call clipboard people into your life. government agencies who will show up, and we can talk in questions later if you have any. Government agencies who will show up and with a lot of regulations that you have to be conscious of and surprise us sometime. Certainly liability is an issue. CATS helps us with liability. It helps with indemnifying us. You can get paralyzed in the United States being afraid of attorneys, but it is real and you do have to be conscious of it. Dogs. We tried to allow dogs into our housing. People would not oblige us on our farm. They just would not keep them on leashes. We had animals killed. I was backed up against a building by a pit bull who I just told them dogs are an issue and we struggle with that sometimes. When I walk my property, I keep my own dog on a leash. That's one thing. Unsupervised children, I'm going to talk like an old man right now. I'm not sure there's any other kind right now. And they can be a little hard to manage sometimes, even with their teachers. We've never had any real bad incidents, but you do have to be careful with that. We've had one guest have her foot stepped on, and thank God by a cow, she was okay. But those are all things that I think would account for. So I guess in summary, I'm going to wrap this up. If you have this as an opportunity and it fits into your personality to allow this level of access to your farm for recreation, for agritourism, if you have the time, because it is time and labor intensive, and you can fit it soundly into your business model, it certainly worked for us, and we would recommend allowing people on your property to whatever degree you're comfortable. So that's all I have right now.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Tori. Phaedra, do you want to talk about Into the Woods Farm?
Sure. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Phaedra. I own and operate Into the Woods Farm, which is right in Saratoga County, New York. So a super high tourist area. We get people from all over the place. My farm was created just due to my kids wanting a couple of animals. And then really, honestly, what we do now was created out of survival. So it was, how do we create programming to support the animals that we have on the farm? Because as most true farmers know, that is not a way to actually make money. Most farmers work outside of the home and then also farm. So especially small hobby farms. So we started back, and we definitely had a transition of what my idea was. I was an outdoor educator by trade. So I did have all the wilderness first responder, high angle rescue, all the, guiding. I've been a New York State guide for years. But something that I came across is that, especially in our area, there's a lot more of when you had mentioned, Dave, there's a much more of the tourism over the recreation. Certainly there are people that come for recreation, but it is a lot more of the tourism. So creating experiences that are simple, but overall unique is how we've kind of come about. I did used to try to offer the options of guided, snowshoe adventures or guided walks in the woods, tree walks, plant walks, things of that sort. And those things did not sell. Those things did not book. So I don't know. I suppose the fad of goats came about, and we did not get goats. There is no business plan behind what our farm was. The goats came about and the business came out after. I really created my business because I needed to keep my kids engaged with the animals that they had wanted. So it was always, we had people approach us and ask us to do goat yoga back in 2016 when goat yoga became a thing, or for some people who know about it, it did become a thing. And so we had a outdoors company from Saratoga that create experiences, ask us if we would bring our herd to one of their events to be the goats for their yoga. And that's kind of where I have to say we started, realizing that there might be a way to make money with the animals so that the animals could support themselves. And from that point on, we had started goat yoga. But again, as much as I say we're Saratoga County and we're local, we're about 20-25 minutes out of downtown Saratoga, we're still kind of a remote location. It is just myself and my daughter. And we're kind of still trying. I'm at that point now where I do know that there's a threshold, right? If something happens to me, the events don't happen as they need to, and that could be a problem. So I am doing a lot of the problem solving and working around and figuring out. I have for years of, I need a backup to what we do. Right now, COVID was actually a big bonus for us, because we were one of the only experiences in the area that stayed open and operational. I honestly took it as when I think there was the announcement that it was dangerous to be in the outdoors. That was when I shut down everything about COVID and said, we're continuing on. We created, or people really started to create, the private experiences, the private time spots, because there's only so many hours in a day. So that's why I offer our experiences during daylight hours. It's good for people for pictures. You know, in the beginning with COVID, people have said, we just want to come up and sit with the goats. We just want to come up and sit in the woods and sit with the goats. And I knew that we had already created walks with the goats with just my kids. We had done that. So I knew that I could offer them more. It just was that kind of hurdle on how to do that. We tried to couple goat yoga and the hikes together, and that doesn't work because goat yoga people are not the same as the hiking people. So it was really the whole learning process of the agritourism is trying to figure out your clientele and how you can make that work. The thing that we don't do is we do not open our property to the public. It is only by appointment only. I just don't have the capacity to do that. For the reasons, as David mentioned, when I get the question, oh, you know, it'll be my family and our very well-behaved dog. I stopped right from the very beginning. I am a dog person, and so I have experience in that background too. And right from the very beginning, I said, you know, there are no outside animals permitted on the property for the safety of our animals as well as your animals. And usually that flies. I also do a lot of pushing people off onto public trails. Saratoga Plan, I think, is what the equivalent to the Champlain is, because Saratoga Plan is a land conservancy, kind of a privately funded but publicly known. They buy up or are donated properties and then either keep them forever wild or open them for hiking. And we have a lot of those trails around us. So what I'll do is people might come to us for their experience with the animals, and then I send them to the public trails to go walk their dogs or do walking on their own. What I've come to do in the last few years is I've pushed to local businesses a lot, local Airbnbs or restaurants, or like I say, the Saratoga Plan trails, or if there's things going on in the town in Saratoga, people might come to me, but I try to create the package for them. I give them in their confirmation emails everything that has to do with, you know, all the local restaurants that you can go to, local lodging, things of that sort. So I try to keep that as like a, you know, so they can have a destination. I'm currently working with somebody who has multiple Airbnbs, and they've found an interest in my farm and are working with me to try to help promote me. That's what I've known all along, is it would be really great if I had somebody with more means than me and a different aspect be able to help figure out the best avenue and things that I should do up there. We have entertained putting up possibly yurts or just a couple of little tiny buildings just for farm stays. Things that stop me from doing that is money. So that hasn't ever happened. We also have the options for pavilions because we do have school groups and things come up, and when it rains, we always rain date because we don't have the structures to be able to do anything with that. So we get a lot of questions from people is, oh, you know, you could do this and this and this, and money is a huge thing to hold you back. So as much as I use this for, you know, a business, it does not do anything more than loosely support the animals. But I know there's more that can be done. It's really unique to be in a meeting like this, learning the different ways people do this. We do have insurance. I offer on-site and off-site. So our main things that we offer is goat yoga, both on-site and off-site. And we do wild walks, we call them, which are hikes where all 17 goats wander on the trails with you without leashes and tethers. They just like to be with people. And snowshoeing used to be strictly just snowshoeing, and then COVID came about and people wanted the goats to follow with them. And because we were able to keep the trails so packed down, the goats had no problem wandering through the woods in the winter. So that's where the goats became goat snowshoeing also. My feelings as an outdoor educator was whatever it is that can get people into the outdoors, I'll do it. So if they wanted the goats to go along with them, then so be it. They did. There's definitely you know, I always tell people, they're like, oh, can we do tree or plant walks too with the goats? And that's not an option. If you point to a plant, the goat eats it. You know, you touch a tree, the goat eats it. So, you know, there's just a fine tuning. I do not hire other people to do my walks for me. So it is only me. Something I've learned along the way. And I've had so many people try to talk me into hiring other people so I could offer more. I have to assess every single group that comes in, and there may be another way to do it, but when they get out of the car, you know, I look at them all the way down to, as much as I can give them a list of, you know, make sure you have good footwear and things of that sort, I still have to look and see who walks out and what their abilities are, and that's how I form my, you know, walks and my guided walks with people. And it changes and is different for absolutely every single one because, like I said, we are in an area that's more tourism and not recreation. People are not coming prepared. The most that I had was during COVID, I was able to teach more and guide more and give people direction on, you know, gear for snowshoeing, for hiking, for just being comfortable in the outdoors. That was really exciting for me. But once COVID ended, so does, you know, everybody's memory of what that meant. So again, we're back to the, you know, lots of it is tourism. I've had people show up in high heel boots for snowshoeing adventures. And I've had, you know, folks come in Crocs for going for a walk. And, you know, it's just, I try to be as thorough as I can, but people are people and humans are humans. And so I don't feel safe giving them to somebody that doesn't know how to assess it, because I do all my adventures from my home. So my farm is my home. It's all we have. So I have insurance for both on-site and off-site events, and it's a whole blanket business insurance. I am an LLC. It was just recommended to me, so I can't say that it came from knowledge otherwise than me asking people what the best avenue and route to go. And you know, then my homeowners, the blanket policy covers above and beyond that. I have looked at, and I'm not sure if you know, Dave, if you guys, if anybody has done this, but I have gone back and forth on how to separate my home from the property that I run my business off of, but haven't had the need to do that yet because I do it in such a controlled manner. I have people sign waivers. There is, and whether those hold water at the end of the day, I don't know, but I know that it puts in someone's mind when they do it, that they are signing a waiver and they're, you know, aware of anything that could maybe potentially happen while walking in the woods, right? So those are the things I have. I otherwise keep it very simple. I do all my own promoting. I advertise locally. And like I said, I try to work with local businesses so that we all promote each other. We've had some luck, you know, otherwise with news and things of that sort, because they're unique experiences. But the insurance part of it is a real thing. I had a group that ended up with bee stings this year, and that was another first, not really a first eye opener because I've worked in the outdoors for so many years. but I've worked in the outdoors with kids and people that are coming for outdoor wilderness experiences. And as much as that's what we offer, that's not necessarily the people that I get. So a bee sting was, and I was really shocked about the whole situation, but it was a group where actually the teacher went off the trail when they were told certain times of the year not to. And the teacher stepped in the ground bee's nest, and every student around him got stung except for the ones that are up with me on the trail. So that was an interesting event, interesting experience. Certainly an eye-opener of, you know, I have waivers, we have insurance and things. That group was one of the only groups ever that I typically have people pay me before they even are able to reserve a date. That was one group that gave me a purchase order and assured me that I would be paid the following their pay period. So of course I never got paid for that event. They used it for promotion for their school and for their activities, but you know, nothing came from that. I never got paid. It was an interesting thing. But so there's, you know, pluses and minuses. I meet people from all over the world. Obviously during COVID, I had people that came from, that used to do African safaris. And because I was the only thing going on Christmas, they brought their entire family to us and did an event. So it's how I do it, because I'm working with the people individually and nobody's ever on the property without me. I meet so many neat people and so many different experiences and listen to so many stories and such. The thing I fear of opening the land publicly, because I love what Dave says too about, you know, the fact of releasing some of your responsibilities or your needs to have to be involved. I'm not sure that I have either the property to do that or the means to do that at this point. I would love to think we do have Saratoga Plan that's local, and there's trails going in all over the place, and there's places around, and lots of private properties. We have the snowmobile trail goes through our property as well, but people on their own, again, I don't feel like I have the recreational people, and I'm not sure that I could run what I do and then also have people wandering the trails. The dog thing is a huge thing. I don't want to mention that either. That I think for ag businesses, especially ag tour businesses that have their own animals on property, people with dogs just do not have the sense of that. And you find that on actual trail systems, you know, anywhere in the Adirondacks and everywhere. So that I think is something that really has to be looked at, and you really need to address that right from the beginning so that there's never any gray area, and you make sure you just nix that right from the beginning, if possible. I don't know how you control that when you have trails coming off of your property that might otherwise allow dogs on, then they come across your property. So that, you know, that would be a concern of mine. I'm not sure how you monitor that when you're not, you know, checking each person that comes in and off of your property. I think I said I was going to ramble on this and I wasn't going to be clear on, I think I kind of covered, like you say, the insurance part, what we offer, how I definitely run all of my own experiences, and location, you know, is huge, and ideas for growth. But I guess at the end, anybody who has questions, we can find out from there. But
You did a nice job there, Beta. You did a
I'm
good job.
sorry?
You did a good job with the liability part. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to mention that thank you to everybody, to Beta, to Dave, well, Cynthia's not here, but also Cynthia too, and Tori for being presenters today. All of our webinars are posted on the AgriTourism YouTube channel, and also our AgriTourism website has the link to the YouTube channel, our upcoming events, and our resources. So under our resources, we have fact sheets that coincide with all of these webinars. They're 2 pages in length, very just like brief overview of what has happened. So I'm going to stop the recording.